You're listening to Thunder Quack Podcast Network. This is the Thunder Quack Podcast, the official podcast of Thunder Quack Podcast Network, where anything can happen. So strap yourselves in and hold on to your butts. It's Thunder Quack time!
Hello and welcome back to the Thunder Quack Podcast, the official podcast of thunderquack.com, which you can get early every Tuesday over at patreon.com/thunderquack, just like our Patreon producers Brian Murawski and JJ Samuel do. Or you can wait and get it late every Friday on podcast services across the galaxy. I am one of your hosts, Michael Cohen.
And I'm your other host, Amanda Conkin.
And we're back.
Happy 2020. End of.
Happy end of 2020. It has not been a happy 2020 for anybody. This is our last episode of the year. Yeah. And we're gonna go out with I guess somewhat of a bang. With some, week old news to talk about.
But the best news that's been dominating the internet forever.
Yeah, but it's honestly what you guys want to hear from us right now, which is we're gonna talk about the Disney Investor Day announcements, everything that was announced. And when I say everything, like, we're gonna talk about everything that is relevant to us. I have the article open on d23.com, which it just says it's written by the D23 team, so it clearly took a whole bunch of people in PR to put this together, probably over the course of like 3 weeks. We're gonna go, I think, in the order that it is in this.
I do want to say before we go into this that, like, there's a few different things to just preface, like, before we like dive right into it.
Sure.
We're ending a crazy year that has completely shifted how media is going to work in the future. And so this announcement that we're going to talk about and all of these properties that are coming up can't be talked about in isolation. I think it's really important for us to also talk about the fact that the Warner Brothers slate announced direct to streaming releases, and that Wonder Woman 1984 is coming out on Christmas Day, digitally and in theaters, and just the amount of content that's going to be given to, like, into our veins next year directly through our platforms is just insane. And like smaller things too, like in Canada, the shifting nature of like Peacock having shows in the States. Netflix is losing Friends at the end of the year, and the only reason I realize that is because they are probably going to put it on Peacock, right, along with all of the other stuff that's NBC. But we in Canada are going to get it on Crave, because basically it's like, if we don't have these other streaming sites that exist, like HBO or HBO Go or Peacock or Hulu, they all go into one other site. So we really do just have the two. I mean, there's a few other streaming sites, but we've got it sort of all amalgamated in one place. And just the amount of content that we get, I think, in Canada on like 2 or 3 platforms is so nice. I can't imagine what it's like in America, where you've got all of these different platforms with like their content.
It's definitely, I think in the States, it's definitely at the point where people are just paying for cable again.
Yeah.
That a lot of people have like cut the cord, and they're like, yeah, I'm better than other people because I don't pay for cable. And now it's like, well, how much do you pay for all of your streaming platforms? Because you're paying, $12 for Netflix and $7 for Disney Plus, and another $15 for Hulu. And actually, I think Hulu's a weird thing. I think Hulu is actually free, but it's ad supported.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
And then you can pay to remove ads.
Gotcha.
So I think I like that model a lot as well, because
it's kind of just like cable.
Yeah, there's a few where it's like, honestly, I miss commercials from time to time. Not all the time, but from time to time.
Every once in a while.
So there's one big piece to this that I will say before we get into like the actual content that was announced, and that's this move now that Disney owns Fox as well, 20th Century
Oh,
Fox, right?
yeah.
And they own Hulu. There's a lot of content on Hulu that has never really been available in Canada.
Yeah.
Like there are several shows that it's like they you can't even buy the shows because there's just no distribution channel for them up here.
Right.
So even if you wanted to legitimately purchase them, and I think that Disney is the first company to recognize that this is a huge issue and that they're losing revenue as a result, by not being in every territory. Like nobody else, and you brought up Warner Brothers, has recognized, or at least they're not thinking about it quick enough, that you cannot release anything online anywhere without it being everywhere.
Right.
And HBO Max initially made that announcement of, hey, are the entire 2021 lineup, starting with Wonder Woman 1984 in December of 2020, is going to be available day and date, right? So, and
Right.
then they
Yeah.
listed a whole bunch of movies. Um, both online and in theaters. They pissed off a lot of people, particularly a lot of the people who make those movies, especially in a lot of
Yeah.
their partnerships, like with Legendary, for example, with
Oh, yeah.
Godzilla versus Kong, which is a movie that has been, I think, thrice delayed as a result of it was delayed once for non-COVID reasons. Like I think it was supposed to be out last fall, like last maybe November or something, and it got pushed to the summer and then got pushed again to this winter and then just got pushed again to May. Um, and Legendary is taking a real hit on it. They've put a lot of money into it. They've been building a cinematic universe with the two Godzilla movies and with Kong.
Right.
And I think there's 4 entries in it so far. And Kong versus Godzilla will be the 5th one. And I like it's a big deal for Legendary because Godzilla is actually one of its more successful properties right now. That like ongoing properties, and so like Legendary is pissed because of Kong and something else. I can't remember what the other one was, but it's basically like they found out. Some directors found out about an hour or two before HBO Max made the announcement.
Yeah. See,
Other
that's.
directors found out from the trades after
Oh,
the
jeez.
announcement. And that's ridiculous. So
Yeah.
Warner, no surprise, has no clue what they're doing. Absolutely zero clue. Disney, on the other hand, has been over the course of this year consolidating and figuring out what are we doing. And I think one of the reasons why it's taken so long for them to announce a bunch of this stuff is that they were trying to figure out what is the right way to do this. Like obviously we got Mulan back in September, which was the first Premier Access. We're gonna get Raya and the Last Dragon on Premier Access as well, which is that you pay the $30 and it's part of Disney Plus, but you own it forever. So people
Right.
act like, oh well, I'm already paying for Disney Plus, and then it's okay. Yes, you do have to keep your Disney Plus subscription up in order to keep that access to that. But like, here's the thing: you have to do that with stuff you buy through Apple. You're just not doing
Yeah,
it.
I hate that.
It's just
Yeah.
it's not quite the same, but it's exactly the same because you have to keep buying Apple devices in order to keep your library, right? It's a little bit different now because they've started putting Apple TV on other products, so that marketplace is becoming a little bit easier,
Yeah.
but
Oh man.
not on all products. Not on every TV, right? You
Not
can't
in
get
every.
Apple TV on everything.
Yeah, you
They
can't.
ha-
Which
they have
I just.
partnerships, so you are paying a premium
Yeah.
for that. It's
Yep.
just a premium that's been obfuscated behind a product purchase. That product has to be replaced every few years, and Apple's getting their cut that way instead, right? Through a partnership with LG or Samsung or whatever, right? But not Sony. So that's like the whole thing. You want to buy Sony products because that's who you buy with. Well, guess what? You're gonna have to buy the Apple TV box separately. So Apple just got you there too. And in
Well.
3 years, you're gonna want to replace that because now it's got 8K instead of 4K, right?
Oh man, we
Like
should
they
never
like
watch stuff in 8K. Ugh. But when I bought my TV, I got a Roku, and I was worried that it wasn't gonna have anything, and I am noticing, like, my parents have a Samsung TV, and it doesn't have the same, like, access that
Mhm.
Roku does, and it's kind of interesting, like, what gets what, like, what
Yep.
brands get what stuff, and I have, like, no restrictions on my Roku TV for any apps, like, they're all sort of coming in. Hey, this is also, like, I think a breaking news thing for the Snyder Cut, like, release date being officially March 25th.
Oh, did they just
That
announce
just
that?
I think they just announced it, like, a couple hours ago.
It's not
So,
the Snyder cut anymore either, is it? I think it's
it
Justice
says
League the director's cut.
it says the Snyder Cut it says DC Films, the Snyder Cut premieres on March,
Okay.
but this might be a fan site, I don't know, DC Entertainment Universe? That might be
That
that's
is
probably
definitely
a
a fan site. That's
fan
not an
site,
official
but,
site.
you know.
Um, let's see what at Justice League is this. Nope, that's not actually Justice League movie. There we go.
Oh, yeah, because
Uh,
I forgot that they're oh, wait, why do I get it's September 5th? Darn it! I thought it was March. I just saw March.
it's not. I mean,
Anyways.
like it doesn't look like they've officially announced it
Aw, okay.
on this. On
Wikipedia says it'll be March 2021, and, if Wikipedia says it, it must be
yeah.
true.
Um,
Okay.
Warner Brothers Pictures. Let's see what Warner Brothers Pictures has to say about it. Nope, they're just retweeting about
I don't know,
Wonder
Screen
Woman,
Rant
Wonder
says
Woman, Wonder Woman.
that it should release in March 2021, so maybe I'm
I think that you have found nonsense fan site because
nonsense. Come on.
none of the official channels are saying anything about a release date
Boo.
for
Fine.
like the last week. So, anyways, Disney I
Nonsense.
think is being really smart about this stuff with Premier Access, which is yet another thing to push you towards a Disney Plus membership. And then in international regions, so other than the US, they are basically creating a section on Disney Plus for Hulu and FX content. And FX is one of is Hulu and FX have been in kind of like a bit of a dead zone for a lot of stuff. There are certain deals because FX isn't just Fox stuff, right? And Hulu's not just Fox stuff. There's also NBC stuff that gets put on Hulu, and
Mm-hmm.
like it's kind of all over the place. But but some of this stuff has just like never had a home in Canada, and on streaming, right? And now all of a sudden, all of this stuff is going to be inside Disney Plus in Canada and the UK and other international regions. So the price of Disney Plus is going to go up, but not a lot, and totally justifiably, because now all of a sudden, I'm not going to just tell people that they should be watching Atlanta and Legion. I mean, Legion is done, but like it doesn't matter. Still, go back and watch Legion because it's going to be there. Like it's going to be on these platforms. So I think actually Legion will be on Disney Plus for everybody because a bunch of stuff is coming to. I think the effects stuff
Oh,
is all coming to Disney Plus for everyone, but that Hulu
interesting.
stuff is going to be part of uh, Disney Plus. I think they call it Star under yeah, it's Star everywhere, and then Hotstar in India and Indonesia. Um, but yeah, that's going to be the home for all of the FX 20th Century Studios and 20th Television stuff.
Wow.
So all of a sudden, all of like that X-Men stuff and yeah, all sorts of great shows are going to be on Disney Plus, just under like an additional. So like right now, it's like you've got like Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, National Geographic, and they're just going to add another one of those tabs that's
Oh.
Star, where all of this other content lives, and it'll also be uh I all of the content that is not age appropriate for the general Disney audience, this has been one of their big hurdles to get over. It's the reason why Logan and Deadpool aren't on Disney Plus yet.
Oh, yeah.
When the other X-Men movies are, is that now they basically categorize that stuff under that, so that parental controls are really simplified, of
Oh,
like
yeah.
who has access to Star, who has access to this extra thing, and if you don't have access to that extra thing, then you're not going to see any of the mature content. But it means that now, like, they'll have a place for that. So and that's what that says, is not just, oh, they needed a place to put all of these like FX and R-rated movies that are in their catalog. It means that they're making another Deadpool, and
Right.
period. That is what that means, is that Disney is looking at the stuff that they purchased and going like, okay, we need to have a place for this on our streaming platform, in order for us to justify making this content, right?
Right.
So to me, like, that's super exciting, because that means that we're gonna have all of that stuff for us in Canada all in one place, like, so
Yeah,
easy
which
to
would be good.
access, which is awesome. But that just goes back to the idea that WB had no plan for international regions. They were just gonna release Wonder Woman 1984
Oh, yeah, yeah.
on HBO Max in the United States only, and everybody else could go to the movie theater.
Yeah,
Well,
that was
guess what?
ridiculous. Yeah.
The movie theaters in British Columbia are all closed.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of them.
Yep.
And they will be for the foreseeable future. Like, I think it'll probably be February before they're even talking about reopening the movie theaters at this point, because the numbers just keep going up. So it's like until the vaccines, which thankfully are starting to roll out now, until that number hits a certain point and herd immunity starts to take effect, and the numbers start to at least level off and hopefully start to go down, um like, we're not going to be able to go to the movies. So it was one of those things where I was like, man, I really want to see this. I think the last time we talked about it, I was kind of like, whatever, it's probably not going to be that good anyways. I like, it'll be fine, but it's not like it's gonna be. And then the reviews came out, and the reviews are like, "Oh, this one's way better than the first one." Like, and from people who like the
Nice.
first one, right?
Nice.
And so I was like, "Oh man, are you kidding me?" And then like all the reviews are like, "This is exactly the movie that we need right now. This is the hero
Yay!
that
Oh,
we
I'm
need
so
right now
excited.
for this time." And it's like, damn, am I going to a movie theater to
Yeah.
see this movie? And it's like, I'm going to go by myself. I am going to yell at anybody that comes within 8 feet of me.
Yeah.
6 feet is the rule, right? But I'm going to be like, "Oh, you are too close. You're in the yellow zone and you need to be in the green zone. Get the hell away from me." I, I, I like, figure that out. But then I went, just randomly decided to check today, in advance of this recording. I was just curious, because I was going to bring it up with you, say like,
I've
what are
been
you going to do?
Googling
You
it
can't go
every
to the
day.
theater.
I've been Googling it every day to
Yeah,
try to be
and
like,
saw
when's it
that
coming? Where's
it
it
was the
coming?
18th. So
Yeah.
I guess that was Friday
Yeah.
that they announced, hey, we just realized that because we're not releasing it anywhere else legally, that you guys are all just going to steal this. And then when we do release it in March for you guys to purchase, you're not going to.
Yeah.
And we're going to lose out. Like clearly somebody knocked on somebody's office door and said, "Hey, we ran the numbers on your stupid
Yeah.
decision, and your stupid decision is going to cost us this many millions of dollars in other regions,
Yeah.
because all you care about is America, apparently." Like, I guarantee somebody at WB in Canada was like, "Are you kidding? Like, you just affected our bottom line. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to have to lay off half of our staff because you guys decided to do this without consulting anybody else." So it's very clear that no one at Warner Brothers is talking to anybody about any of the decisions that they're making, which is not news, right? Like, the way that Warner makes decisions about these things, we've seen it with the DC properties for the last 10 years. Like, they just absolutely shoot from the hip. They make their decisions in the moment and they have no plan. And so when Zack Snyder has a plan, it's like, okay, well, let Zack Snyder have his plan. And they go, okay, well, he can have his plan until such time that we decide that his plan doesn't get to be a plan anymore. And then we're going to yank him from the movie, put this other guy on the movie, and not really care about what the product is, but just that, you know, like we did our quote unquote due diligence by grabbing the next geek guy and putting him in there.
So I have a confession.
Yeah.
That I kind of hope that Warner Brothers does not get their stuff together for at least another decade, because it is straight up my goal in life to bring the Warner Brothers universe together. Like, I feel like to be like the Feige or like Kathleen Kennedy of the Warner Brothers universe is just like life goals.
It's Kathleen Kennedy. I just don't want you to get.
What did I say? What did I say?
You said Catherine.
Oh, Kathleen. Sorry, Kathleen Kennedy. I should have just used her last name. Do you see how sexist I was there? I called him Feige and then I used her first name instead of just saying Kennedy.
I think you need to up the level of producing that you're doing if you want to do that within the next 10 years.
In the next decade?
Yeah,
Thanks.
I think so.
I mean, I feel like
I that is not goal. Any shade whatsoever. You just named the two most powerful producers on the planet and said that you want to be the same thing as them.
Yeah. That's my 10-year goal. I hit my 5-year goal as of December 2020. So okay. I have to have new life goals. And so I'm just saying that my new life goal is to like run a like franchise basically. That is like
okay.
And but like I just thought that it was weird that other people don't think like that. Like I was at a producing workshop the other day and people were like, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" And everybody was like, "Oh, like happy and by a lake." And I'm like, no, man. I see myself like on the Warner Brothers lot, like doing something down there. Anyways.
I would like to point out that Kathleen Kennedy was, let me see, can I do this math? 1981. She was not even 30 when she produced Raiders of the Lost Ark. Well, she didn't produce. Sorry, she was an associate on that, but and she was a producer on the next one.
Yes, she's done a lot of awesome things.
Yeah, so you know,
I have to find the right people and do the right thing.
Yeah, she was an associate producer. So she was 31 when she associate produced Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Yes.
She was 29 when she produced E.T. the Extraterrestrial. You know, one of the highest grossing films of all time.
But here's the thing. That was her first film as a producer. Was E.T.
Yeah.
So like there's a little bit of luck there that who's to say in the next decade, if I like play my cards right, I can't also have a little bit of luck.
Yeah, you know, I think you're right because you are married to Frank Marshall, right? So
basically,
that
helps.
Yeah, because not to imply that that's why Kathleen Kennedy got the job. But Kathleen Kennedy got the job because she is an amazing producer.
Yeah.
So this for those who don't know, the story with Kathleen Kennedy is that she was basically Steven Spielberg's assistant on Raiders of the Lost Ark, and was essentially like his right hand, right? So as they would walk around, because Frank Marshall was producing Raiders, so she got hired on as Spielberg's assistant and associate to Mr. Spielberg was the title, and so she basically like followed him around and it's like, hey, I here like you need to run this over to this department or whatever, like that sort of thing. And like that was the job that she was hired for. And like within the first couple of weeks of them like going through storyboards and talking about the script and meeting with Harrison and like all of these things that they were doing, like she would be like, well, here's how you solve that problem. Well, here's what we should do with this.
Yeah.
And it's like Raiders of the Lost Ark would not be the movie that it is if Kathleen Kennedy wasn't there with Steven Spielberg every step of the way. So she should have a producer credit on that movie, but that's not how the unions work. So whatever. but in reality, so that's why like the next thing that he did, she's a producer on, because like she immediately jumped from being his very elevated gopher to all of a sudden like producing E.T. the extraterrestrial. So she 100% earned her place there, and then proved it time and time again as she produced E.T. and Raiders and Hook, Jurassic Park, right? Like basically everything that Steven Spielberg did through the 90s, which is when he was doing all of his best
and
stuff.
I will say, I get that she's like a lot older than me, and I'm like, maybe it should be a goal for like when I'm 50, but that's like what, like only 15 years.
She's also the president of Lucasfilm. Like she's not just a producer, she is the president of Lucasfilm. So that's
which I guess it's a different trajectory, like, but that's in my brain the trajectory that like ultimately to be a producer is to be like I don't know. Yeah.
But anyway, the reason why she's the president of Lucasfilm is because she is the only person that George Lucas trusted to see through this transition, right? Like through the next probably 20 years of and we're now at what we're at. I think we're at like 8 years. 2012, right? So she's probably got another decade or decade to 15 years before she'll probably step down. And they'll put somebody else in there. But
wait, how long did you say? A decade?
another decade to 15 years. You got a lot of work to do is what I'm saying.
I know.
If you want to make it to that level.
But so the thing is that like I've never set myself big goals. I've always set myself like little goals, and I've achieved them. And I'm kind of like, as I get into my, like after, basically a year in which we're all kind of sitting around feeling really terrible about ourselves, that I'm like, right? Because I mean, 2020 just did that to us, right? We sort of, it's getting us down. I'm kind of like sitting here being like, what did I even do this year? What am I useless? Am I worthless? But then I'm like, you know what, Amanda, you set a goal this year and you achieved it in September, right? Like I became a line producer in animation. I had given myself 5 years to do that, right? So I'm kind of like now being like, okay, my exponential growth over the last 5 years in terms of like who I am, I actually feel like I know what I'm doing right now. So if I set myself a trajectory for the next decade, what skills do I need to learn, and like what like kinds of projects do I need to pursue to like get me where I want to go? Now, I will say the one difference that I have and that I recognize is like there is no alternative. Like Kathleen Kennedy and Kevin Feige are the only two I can think of. They do both work in feature film spaces, and feature film is not necessarily what gets me excited. Television does. So, but for me, the like possibilities for a like television based franchises, like it might not be like the Warner Brothers specifically, but something like that that's like in spaces that are exciting to me, like what like thinking collectively about how to like empower different creators and creating this huge world and universe that like are all these connected ties, but that have like individual fandoms and individual people. That just like really gets me really excited to like think holistically about creators and about content and about audiences. And I think that there's something like really formative and awesome that those two producers are doing, and I want to be in that space. So how do I set myself up in the next 10 years?
I would recommend against DC, because DC has had that person technically in their org structure. They've just replaced that person every 2 to 3 years for the last 10 years. And that's why there's no plan, right? As opposed to like Feige being the guy for the last 12 years. And Kathleen Kennedy being the person for the last 8 years. Right. And Disney not wavering once they've made that decision. And after they've had success, like the thing with DC is that every time that they have success, they have switched it up and done something different. It's like, oh man, Man of Steel was actually a really successful movie. Like Man of Steel made a lot of money. It did good for them. It wasn't The Dark Knight, which is what they wanted it to be, but they set the wrong expectation. A Superman movie is never going to be a Batman movie. Batman appeals to the lowest common denominator, and Superman actually requires you to put a little bit of thought into it. So,
can I?
Go ahead.
I just have to say something that, like, at our Christmas party, our Zoom Christmas party at work, people were talking about there's a new crypto series that's coming out that I think they're doing in Vancouver. Like, I think people are working on it in Vancouver. Anyways, and then people were talking about crypto, and they were like, "Oh, like, how does it work?" And I was like, "Man, if anybody wants to talk to me about Superman, like, let's offline this. Like, I could talk forever about all the things with Superman." And then, like, one of the, like, guys that I've been working with for a while was like, "Wait, you like Superman? I thought you were a feminist." And I was like, "Excuse me?" Like, what? How'd
you get there?
How did you get there? Yeah, I'm like, what? That's anyways, and so, like, in the middle of this Christmas, like, celebration with, like, all the teams from, like, mine and another show, I had to be like, "Do you want me to tell you why I like Superman? Because I will." And so
Yeah.
I took like a minute and a half to, like, be like, "Actually, the reason I like him is his relationships with, like, other people, and also, like, Lois Lane and blah blah."
Yeah, Lois Lane, the original
Yeah.
feminist pop culture
I know.
icon.
And I'm kind of like,
The archetype
what?
that, like, that Princess Leia is built off of, that every spunky female lead is based off of, like
and one
go
of the
back
most
to the
powerful,
1930s
like,
and find another character that had as much another
and
female character who had as much agency as Lois Lane
and
did.
another female character that has as much, like, people can tell you the name Wonder Woman, but how many people that are not comic book fans know her name is Diana, right? Yeah. Whereas the majority of, like, casual, just people that know of Superman, they know the name Lois Lane. Like, Lois Lane is the most popular, like, like, synonymous, right? With Superman. And so I'm just kind of like, I just thought that was so interesting. Anyways, it was good. It sort of, like, was a great opportunity for me to, like, say it. But it was just like, I was kind of like, what? Like, that's so, like, anyways, but that's my random thing.
Let's jump into this Disney stuff. Let's jump into these announcements. So I'm just gonna read this, like, as it is in the in this article.
Cool.
Okay, so starting with Disney Television Studios for Disney Plus, we've got Beauty and the Beast, which is a working title. It actually stars Luke Evans and Josh Gad, so it's not Beauty and the Beast. It's actually Gaston and LeFou, right? That's what the show actually is. Interesting, because I don't know that anybody particularly
asked for that.
I think Josh Gad asked for that, and I think that Josh Gad has done enough work for. I'll tell you exactly what happened. Frozen 3 is in production. They haven't announced it, but it is. There's no way it's not. Because Frozen makes more money than Star Wars for Disney. So
does it really?
Yeah, Frozen makes so much money when you add in all of the merchandising stuff.
Oh, I guess
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Josh Gad absolutely put it in a contract. 100%. He was like, I have an idea. I guarantee you, by the time this show comes out, we will find out that he's an executive producer on the show.
Interesting.
Because he loves musicals, and he loves this character. And there was the really, like, I don't know that it was subtle, but there was, like, the under subtext thing of, like, that LeFou is gay in the live action Beauty and the Beast, and in love with Gaston, right? I guarantee you that's what this show will be about. Like, that will be, like, the like, not a gag, but, like, sort of like the comedic thread through it will be the fact that, like, LeFou is totally in love with Gaston, and Gaston is completely oblivious to it, and he'll have, like, songs where he sings to the audience about how much he loves Gaston, and we'll all be like, really, Gaston? Because he's a horrible person. And I'm sure that that's what this show is. So and because that sounds like the sort of thing that Josh Gad would want to do, and honestly, I'd be down for that. Like, I'll at least check it out, because if they could do some self-aware Disney princess stuff, I think that it would be worth it. And it's also one of those things where it'll definitely be Luke Evans and Josh Gad 99% of the time. And then like at the end of the series, um, what's her face? Hermione.
Oh, Belle?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh, oh, you mean her
The
name?
actor,
Oh, Emma
yeah.
Thompson. Or no, Emma. Emma.
Yeah, see, that's what I did too. My
Emma,
brain.
no, come on.
Yeah.
My brain. How did it just stop? Emma Watson.
Emma
Oh my
Watson, there
gosh.
you go.
That was so upsetting.
Yeah, like she'll show up for like one episode. Anyways, so that's that Beauty and the Beast working title. Swiss Family Robinson, who cares? This one's exciting. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, which they made 2 Percy Jackson movies, but they didn't really go anywhere. They weren't as big as they wanted them to be. This was in the time when like Harry Potter had kind of Harry Potter
I mean,
wasn't
they
done
were
yet, but it
big.
was
They
on
were
its way
big
out.
movies. Yeah.
They were big budget movies, but they weren't big return, I don't think,
No,
because they only made 2 of them and they had plans to make like 5. So
yeah, that's true.
just like, so when Harry Potter was happening, Disney tried a couple of times to get the same thing going. And it's like, because like over on in the other corner you had the Hunger Games stuff happening, that it was like, oh, Harry Potter's a big deal, let's make Hunger Games happen. When all like the and you know, Twilight and whatever, when all of like the YA novels all of a sudden started being big budget movies because Harry Potter was super successful, so everybody wanted to buy properties and replicate the same thing. So Disney had Percy Jackson. Before that, they had tried Narnia, and Narnia didn't go anywhere. It fell totally flat. The first one was successful, but the sequels did nothing. And then they tried Percy Jackson, and I will be honest, I loved the first movie, never watched the second one. Just never saw it. As much as like I loved that first one, I was like, this is awesome. So the idea that they're going to go back and they're going to develop it as a series based on these books,
that's a better choice always.
It's
like,
it's always better. It's like, always better.
Come on.
Well, it's like in 10 years when Warner Brothers announces that they're going to do Harry Potter, but they're going to do it as an HBO Max series, just like what's happening with Lord of the Rings right now, right? Like they're going to be superior because you're going to have like there will always be like an iconic element to the original like interpretations, and certainly like that'll influence stuff, but also like when you have that much more time, you can actually get into it. So I'm excited about that. Mighty Ducks Game Changers is
that sounds fun.
I'm really happy that this is happening. I'm really upset that this is the story that they went with, that it's Emilio Estevez as the lead. And Lauren Graham is going to be in it, which is exciting because we love Lauren Graham. Right. But I wanted it to be Joshua Jackson.
Charlie,
right?
yeah.
That to me, that was the whole thing, is that like I wanted to come back, pick it up, 30 years later, and Charlie has moved on with his life. He doesn't play hockey anymore. He's got a career, and he's completely lost sight of everything. Like he's become Gordon Bombay, and he has to come home and coach the Ducks, and that Emilio Estevez runs the skate shop, which is the role that oh shit, I can't remember the actor's name right now, but that I think he's German.
Or the old dude.
Yeah, that like that
right.
He died,
it was like sort of a
and Gordon takes over the skate shop so that he can be the Obi-Wan Kenobi and give the words of advice every couple episodes or whatever. Unfortunately, that's not what they're doing. And I hope that at some point they tried, and that Joshua Jackson was just like, I'm not interested. Like that he read the scripts and was like, this isn't what I want to do.
But I'm kind of like, why, Joshua? Why?
Well, if they weren't there, if the quality wasn't there, right?
Could you imagine if Joshua Jackson and Hayden Christensen came back for like my ultimate 90s fantasy?
We're not there yet. You're jumping the gun.
Sorry.
Jeez.
I am. There's so many things. Let's get through more of them.
Yeah, well then stop talking, Amanda. Stop talking about DC, for God's sake.
Okay.
Turner and Hooch, no one cares. Absolutely no one asked for this. Big Shot, which is another, like, this. The funny thing about Big Shot is that they're like, yeah, we're gonna make a Mighty Ducks TV series, and we're also gonna make Big Shot, which is about a high-profile basketball coach who screws up and now has to coach a high school basketball team and
But
learn
it's
something about himself,
girls.
but it's because it's girls. So it is, but it's literally just the Mighty Ducks again.
Well, yeah.
Like it's just like, it's tweak a few things. They're not bad. Like they're a good basketball team, but like, yeah, it's the same story. But anyways, because they're gonna teach him something about himself. The Mysterious Benedict Society. That I said all of that very snarky. It's John Stamos and Yvette Nicole Brown. I am watching that 100%. There's no way I'm going to miss that show.
I have to say, the Swiss Family Robinson,
Yeah.
the part that like is somewhat intriguing is that it's John M. Chu is part of the creative team for that, and I'm kind of like, oh,
True. Yeah,
So-
that is interesting, but we know literally that it's happening and that he is a part of
that's
it,
about it. Yeah.
and that is it. So
Yeah, that's fair.
we'll see. We're gonna skip over National Geographic because who cares?
Fair. Yeah.
Hulu, yeah, they're making more Handmaid's Tale. You will never ever get me to watch that.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like. I get it. I get it. I don't need to watch it in order to be told that, you know, like misogyny, like systemic oppression of women is a bad thing. I'm good, actually. I don't need to be depressed about it. But let's tell hopeful stories instead of depressing ones. I'm just not interested. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's a great show. It's won a bunch of awards, but it's not for me. It's just like I don't watch Westworld, right? Like I
That's
can't like, it's just I
yeah,
don't.
Westworld is quite depressing.
Yeah, Westworld looks like a real bummer, and it's also like a Lost type show of like, what are all of the mysteries, you guys? I'm like, I don't have bandwidth for this in my life. I don't
liked
care.
Westworld though. I'm like,
I'm
anyways,
sure.
I only
No,
watched the first- I
I'm
only
not
watched the first
saying that
season.
Westworld is bad. I'm just
Yeah,
saying like I'm sick of shows like that, and
Yeah,
that's a
that's fair.
totally personal thing. It's just like, just tell me a story. Stop putting mystery boxes inside mystery boxes and acting like everything needs to be lost. It's been how many years since that show went off the air, and guess what? It didn't pan out well for that show. that was not a good idea, and JJ really screwed up the Star Wars sequels by applying the same logic to it. So I just don't have time for like, you have to watch every frame of this show in order to know 6 years down the line that guy was actually a polar bear in the first season. That's a nice Lost reference for everybody. On FX, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is getting, what is it? It's the like, it's been picked up for 4 additional seasons.
What?
Which I think is bringing it to something like 15 or something like that, which makes it the longest running live action sitcom in television history.
I didn't even know. I didn't realize that was part of. That's so crazy. I love that.
I didn't realize It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia was still making new seasons.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, everybody that is on It's Always Sunny is a genius, and I have loved in other stuff that I've seen, and I've never watched It's Always Sunny. Like, I shouldn't say I've never watched it. I've definitely watched an episode, but it didn't hit for me. Right. But when this comes to Disney Plus in Canada, I am absolutely jumping in on day one. This is one of the first things that I'm going to start watching. And because it's like, there's like a decade of content to get caught up on.
It's true.
So, like, what better binge show in between Marvel and Star Wars stuff than Danny DeVito and Charlie Day?
The best part of it is that you don't actually have to watch them in order. Like, I just love seeing random episodes. So
it's very Seinfeld like in that way of like, it's like the characters are never going to learn anything. It's never going to change. It's always going to be the same ridiculous hijinks. But yeah, I'm excited about that. This is the big one for FX. They're making an Alien television series. which
Wow,
is
I don't even know about this stuff. I'm looking at like different. I should be looking at the same article that you're looking at. I'm
you
looking
should
at
have
like.
watched the investors
I know I didn't.
presentation.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Not the whole thing. You didn't need to watch the whole 4 hours. You only needed to watch like an hour and 20 minutes of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're making this Alien TV series. It's oh shoot, it doesn't say it
I'm
here.
kind of excited because I don't know where to watch Atlanta. I feel like maybe I could watch it on Crave, but it'll be nice if it comes to.
No, I don't think Atlanta is on Crave. I think that
Yeah.
that you have to have it FX, but it'll be
Yeah.
on Disney Plus.
Yeah, which is nice,
It's
yeah.
it's the showrunner from Fargo that's doing
No,
Alien.
Noah Hawley.
Noah Hawley, and that is very exciting because Fargo is a phenomenal television show.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing an adaptation of Shogun, which has been
What?
made into a movie, but I think they're making this into a series.
Huh. Yeah, they are.
So that's cool. I mean, like that's interesting for sure.
Interesting.
And
Like
then
that's
sorry, go ahead.
cool. I didn't they're describing it as a real life Game of Thrones about feudal Japan.
Yeah, no,
Interesting.
Shogun is ripe
Huh.
for incredible storytelling. So yeah, it could be very, very cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. Jumping into Walt Disney Studios content, starting with Lucasfilm. They announced very early on in the call that they would be talking about 10 new Star Wars properties,
Right.
as well as 10 new Marvel ones. So here are the Star Wars ones. Obi-Wan Kenobi we already knew about. So it's not 10 new, that there would be 10 new properties.
Yeah.
Not 10 new properties, but 10 properties total.
Yeah.
So obviously we already have Mandalorian, and we already knew about Obi-Wan Kenobi and Cassian Andor. But we got the name for Cassian Andor series, which is just Andor.
Andor, yeah.
We got the news that Hayden Christensen is returning as Darth Vader in Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Kathleen Kennedy said the words "rematch of the century," which is very confusing, but also incredibly exciting. We also got confirmation. These had sort of been rumored, but confirmation that Rangers of the New Republic and Ahsoka would be 2 new series spinning off from The Mandalorian. The great thing about the fact that we are doing this late is that we can also say
talk about
that the Book of Boba Fett is the 3rd series spinning off from The Mandalorian, and that it'll actually be the first thing that we get to see will be the Book of Boba Fett next December.
So sorry, what are the other 2 that are spinning off of The Mandalorian specifically?
Rangers of the New Republic.
Okay.
Which we don't know anything about.
But it's sort of like the stuff that the Appa character is part of, right?
More than likely, yeah. And then Ahsoka, which is obviously about Ahsoka. On her hunt to find Ezra and Thrawn. So
cool.
Yeah, so that's cool. Like The Mandalorian is basically, I think what happened is they made the first season of The Mandalorian. I think they had an overall story that they were planning. And I think when The Mandalorian was super successful, that Disney said to Lucasfilm, yes, please, more, because we need this for our platform. Here is all of the money. Go do whatever you guys need to do in order to make sure that you've got content every quarter starting in 2022. Right?
So awesome.
And so I think that what they did was they took the story and they went, okay, instead of doing an episode about this, now we can have these characters go off in this direction for 8 episodes. And then we can have Ahsoka come in season 2 and then have her go off, and it doesn't need to be an animated series anymore. Now we can have part of her story. We can do 8 or 10, because Ahsoka is a limited series. It's not an ongoing. So it's going to be 8 to 10 episodes, I would guess. It might be as little as 6, because that's what I think. I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier is like 5 hours over 4 episodes or something like that, right? They're there are no rules with any of this stuff. Like, they're just telling the stories that they need to tell. So they're going to tell whatever story they need to tell with Ahsoka in live action and include whatever other characters they need. But that'll be whatever it's going to be. Limited series, same as Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is just meaning that it's one season. It's a one and done. But they'll have that. They'll go off. They'll tell that story. They'll do the Book of Boba Fett. They'll do they'll continue with Mandalorian because season 3 has been confirmed. And Jon Favreau said today on Good Morning America that Mando season 3 goes into production as soon as they're done with the Book of Boba Fett, and Book of Boba Fett starts in the new year. So like they're in pre-production on both right now, and like they'll do Boba, and then when that's done, they basically roll right into Mando. So that says to me that they will have Boba in December of next year. Probably, I'll bet you anything we get it on Christmas Day. The first episode of the season will be Christmas Day. That'll run for 8 episodes for 2 months, right? And when that ends, maybe we'll get a week or 2 off. I don't think we will. I think that we'll roll right into Mandalorian season 3.
Really? Okay.
That's my expectation based on what was said, if you're kind of reading between the lines. And then I think like by the time that we're there in 2022, like in February, March of 2022, that we'll know so much more about Ahsoka and Rangers of the New Republic, and they'll probably be like later that year. But it's going to get to the point where there will be either a Star Wars or a Marvel series on Disney Plus almost like every week.
That's what's going to keep people paying Disney Plus every month.
That's the
thing is
the
like
dream.
If you can get new content of your favorite things, like these franchises that we've just grown up with, that we're going to keep paying for, and that you're going to pay for, and then your kids are going to watch, and then your kids are going to pay for, right? Like, it's so crazy.
This is what we told the CW they should have been doing.
Yeah. I remember somebody tweeted you that, didn't they? I saw it on Twitter. Yeah.
I think it was Andy. It's like this was that Disney is doing what I told the CW to do like probably 6 years ago.
Yeah.
When all of the spin-offs started happening.
Yeah. Short content every other month.
Like, it's not even about it being short, it's about it being the right length. Right? Yeah. It's about not having to fill 24 episodes in a season, and therefore doing something like breaking up the couple so that they can get back together.
Right.
You're just generating conflict in order to have a story for 24 episodes, right?
Right.
Killing somebody so that we can bring them back, right? Like stupid stuff that they've done on the CW. That definitely made sense in that old television model, but that's not where we live anymore. That doesn't, it's not relevant. It's why Legends of Tomorrow is the best of the shows on the CW. And it's because it's only 13 episodes and they tell the story that they need to tell. That's it. Like, there's no fluff on, like, I shouldn't say there's no fluff. There's no wasted airtime on Legends. The whole series is fluff. That's the whole point of it. But it is all worthwhile fluff. It's cotton candy, right? It's like, which is why I can't watch it all at once. I have to like take it in doses because otherwise you get a stomach ache. But that doesn't mean that it's not always delicious. And I wish that they would figure it out with the rest of the shows, but they haven't yet. Anyways, I move back into Star Wars land. We've got Andor. We've got the Bad Batch, which will be the next thing. Actually, I said that Boba would be the next thing. Boba will be the next live action thing. Bad Batch will probably be March. It'll either be February or March. We'll probably hear about it in January. But they want to give Mando some breathing room. Star Wars Visions, which is an anthology anime series. It's a bunch of
shorts,
anime shorts from different studios in Japan. This is the Animatrix. It's for those of us who are old enough to remember the Animatrix. This is Star Wars Animatrix. That's all it is. And then they announced Lando, but they didn't announce Donald Glover. So question mark on that one, but you have to imagine that that's what it is. And Leslie Headland's series had been previously announced, but now we know that it's called The Acolyte, and it takes place at the end of the High Republic, which the High Republic is the new era that was supposed to launch back in June, but
Oh.
because of COVID-19, all of the publishing got pushed to January. So January 5th is when the first book comes out, the first wave of stuff for the High Republic, which is, I think it's 200 years before the Phantom Menace, before the fall of the Old Republic, right? Um, I It's not as far back as Knights of the Old Republic, which is
I was gonna say, yeah,
thousands
that
of
was
years.
way, yeah.
Knights of the Old Republic is like way back in the past. So this is the High Republic is like it's 200 years up to 50 years before the Phantom Menace. So the Acolyte could very well be a story about Palpatine.
Oh,
It could
yeah.
involve Palpatine. It could involve. There are a lot of rumors that it involves the Night Sisters, which, if you don't watch the animated stuff, that probably doesn't mean anything to anybody. But that's just me telling you that you should go watch the Clone Wars right now, because it's going to be very important to the Acolyte. There's no doubt in my mind that people who haven't watched the Clone Wars are going to be very confused by the Acolyte in the same way that they're very confused by the Mandalorian, where they're like, wait, what is that Darksaber thing? And it's like, well, there's a whole history, and I can tell you the history, or you could just watch the 2 television shows that it's a major component of. I mean, it's not as major in Clone Wars as it is in Star Wars Rebels,
How
but it's definitely
exciting that
important in both.
Leslie Headland is getting a series. Like,
Yeah, this is very
that's
exciting.
that she's so young.
Yeah, so I think that Palpatine could play a part in this. I would almost guarantee that Darth Plagueis is a part of
I was
this,
gonna say,
because
yeah, like it'd be weird if he wasn't. It's
yeah,
right around the time,
because
right?
it's all because of the time period that it's in, and because like it's about the dark side. So I think that this is going to be the story of how Plagueis became involved with the Night Sisters, because the Night Sisters are then involved in a part of the Clone Wars. And actually, the Darth Maul is a Night brother, so he comes from the same planet as the Night Sisters. And so there's a bit of a story there of like how Sidious recruited Maul, right?
Right.
That's all
Interesting.
connected, and I think that this might be setting some of that stuff up. I think it'll be connected to that.
Yeah.
So like with all Star Wars stuff, it actually doesn't matter where your entry point is, but there is content that you can watch right now to get you ready for the Acolyte that you should watch, and that's Clone Wars.
I just
You don't have to
this is
watch all of Clone Wars
no,
if
no,
all you
no.
care about is the Acolyte, but
I'm just like so excited for her.
yeah,
But it's like her first film was Bachelorette. And
yeah.
it's like that was a big film. It's like I don't know, like there really is something about like these auteur creators that Star Wars does where they take people that have done about 5 things and then they
Yeah.
give them these properties. And it's so cool to watch them and just have faith in these creators and be like, make something cool.
She is a massive Star Wars fan, and is
Awesome.
talking about this stuff already on this level that is very clear. Like, and that's why I say, like, watch Clone Wars now, because there's no way that it's not connected. There's
Right. Yeah,
no
yeah.
way that Clone Wars, Rebels, Mandalorian, and all of the movies are not connected into the story that she's going to tell in Acolyte.
That's so cool.
There's no way. And then they announced a droid story, which is like, is a weird thing where they're like, animation, like the Industrial Light and Magic and the animation division both do such great stuff, and now we're going to bring them together in this new project, a droid story, where we introduce a new hero and alongside R2 and 3PO. And it's like, okay, what is it though? Like, they said a lot of stuff without saying anything about what the hell this is. There are some people that think that it might be related to Redacted. I'm not going to say it because I'm going to give people time to finish Mando before
Interesting.
before we talk about that. So when we talk about that, hopefully in the new year. But there are some people who have some theories about a character that new hero might be.
Mm-hmm.
They also they didn't announce Willow. Willow had already been announced, but they sort of gave us some more details about it. Warwick Davis returning in the title role, no duh. But this could be fun. There's a lot of potential here.
That's
Willow
also
is
John M. Chu, right?
yes, I think so.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
believe so.
yeah.
And the universe of Willow is a creation of George Lucas. So it's essentially his fantasy Star Wars world. Um so
Cool.
but Ron Howard I think directed the original Willow. So yeah, like they're expanding this universe, and it's exciting. It's exciting that Lucasfilm is doing stuff other than Star Wars. I'm gonna leave this next
Well,
one till last, and then
but
sorry, go ahead.
I want to talk about the one that I'm excited about because like first discovered it when I was at Comic-Con
Mm-hmm.
last year, like in 2019, was Tommy Adamui, I guess, is like the Children of Blood and Bone series
Yeah,
that's being or is that a or is it going to be developed as a film? It might be developed as a film.
they're feature films, so
Okay.
that's why like
Yeah.
these are kind of at the end, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
India's getting the 5th and final installment,
Mhm.
directed by James Mangold, who you might remember from Logan. Interesting choice, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, and then Children of Blood and Bone is being adapted. Um, there's also the Star Wars feature by Taika Waititi that we already knew about, but we still don't have a title for it. It's still just some weird Taika Waititi thing. Yeah, Children of Blood and Bone is a big deal. This could be a very big thing for Disney, and for Lucasfilm. This is part of a deal that I think was made before the acquisition. So this was one of the things
Mm.
that Disney accidentally bought when they bought Lucasfilm, and I think it's kind of been sitting a little bit while they got Star Wars up and running. But now that Star Wars is churning, they can jump into this. So. Yeah, I Rick Famuyiwa, who has directed 3 episodes of The Mandalorian, is involved in this. I don't know if he's a producer or if he's directing the
Mm.
films, but that's awesome because he's great. His episodes are some of the best episodes of Mandalorian. So
Hey,
that's exciting.
and I realized I caught myself like as we've been talking where I said that the creator for the Acolyte was young. She's actually not super young. I feel like that's a thing that I say about women that are like because Justin Simeon is the creator of like for Dear White People, who's doing the Lando series, is
Yeah.
actually younger than her. And so it's like it was like unfair for me to like point that out about her and then not also mention that it's like these younger creators that are being given opportunities. I shouldn't have just said it about her. I should like recognize that it was like a couple people. Sorry. I'm
I
like
don't think
trying to catch
anybody was
myself and
going to
stuff.
take you to task
Yeah.
on it,
No, it's good. I just
but
yeah.
So last but not least, certainly not least, the opposite of least, last and most, is Rogue Squadron,
Ba, ba,
which
ba,
is the next
ba.
feature film for Star Wars coming in 2023, December of 2023, which is 3 years away, but that's okay. It's going to be worth it because it's being directed by Patty Jenkins.
Yeah.
This is I could not have wished for something like this. Like a director like Patty Jenkins, a live action Rogue Squadron feature film. I According to the description, this story takes place in the future era of Star Wars, which says to me that it's actually post Rise of Skywalker.
Oh yeah.
Like the description kind of makes it sound like it is the furthest story ahead in time.
Interesting.
It may also be way far ahead
Right.
of Rise of Skywalker. We don't know anything about this yet. She's been working on this for a while, writing story, and they're basically like gearing up to go into pre-production on it. Yeah, man, Rogue Squadron is like if you gave me a wish list, I would tell you, okay, well, you're already doing an Obi-Wan Kenobi series, so I guess the next thing would be Rogue Squadron. Now this is different from what I think most people would have expected if you had said Rogue Squadron, which would have been about Wedge Antilles and the characters from the original trilogy, but
Is
or
it
at
based
least in
on the
that same
game?
time period. So there are books and there are 3 video games. But 4 if you count Battle for Naboo, but nobody does. But more accurately, this is based on the concept of Rogue Squadron as a group, right? So Rogue
Okay.
Squadron is first referenced in Empire Strikes Back, um, as the call sign that Luke uses in the Battle of Hoth, right? He's
Mhm.
rogue leader in that
Mhm.
fight,
Mhm.
and then it transfers after he leaves in Empire to go train to be a Jedi. That leadership role transfers to Wedge, and so Wedge is rogue leader in Return of the Jedi, on the Battle of Endor.
Right.
So,
And it's the
um,
idea that because the first movie was so close to Rogue One, that like the Rogue call sign was it was like an homage to that, yeah.
yeah, the retconning that Rogue One did is
Did
that
yeah.
they made Rogue Squadron
A thing,
a
yeah.
tribute to Rogue One, which was them,
Mhm.
right? Was
Right, yeah,
Jin
yeah.
and Cassian and them,
Yeah.
because that's what Bodhi calls them. He's like,
Yeah.
we're Rogue One, right?
Yeah.
So it is like, because obviously Rogue One happens, and then within like a couple of days, the Battle of Yavin
Yeah.
happens, and then Rogue Squadron is formed from the 4 pilots that survived the Battle of Yavin. That's the origin
Yeah.
story of Rogue One, is literally like the first Death Star battle. So everybody else got wiped out, but it's like it's Luke and Wedge are the 2 X-wings,
Right.
and then I think 2 Y-wings also make it out of that. And those 4 pilots are the pilots that form the
The Rogue
original
Squadron.
Rogue Squadron, and then it's like filled out with other characters by the time that we get
Right.
to Empire. But
Right.
yeah, and then over time, like, there were books and stuff like that, and Rogue Squadron was a part of the EU all the way through to like the end of it,
Oh, cool.
until it
Okay.
was blown up by Disney. So, um,
Blown up.
so this is
Yeah.
basically them coming back in, and they're gonna. It's about a group of new pilots, so it's not about Wedge Antilles. It's not about the characters from the old Legends canon. It's
Right.
going to be about a group of new characters. But the thing is that a lot of the characters that people associate with Rogue Squadron, like the hardcore Rogue Squadron fans, they're not characters from the movies anyways.
Right.
They're all like expanded universe characters from the novels. So um we might see some of those characters get transferred over. Like we've seen a lot of this happen since Disney took over, where it's like there are concepts from the old canon universe that get used, characters that get used. Thrawn is the best example, where it's like Thrawn was never a part of the original trilogy. He doesn't get introduced in the timeline until after Return of the Jedi, right? In the Heir to the Empire series.
Right.
And he dies by the end of it. So he's in that chunk of time, and that's it. Um and then in Star Wars Rebels, which is the first thing that Disney produced after they bought Star Wars, bought Lucasfilm, Thrawn shows up in season 3, and he ends up actually being the big bad guy for Star Wars Rebels. So
Right.
like he is the same character, but his story is completely different. And since then, he's got 6 novels about him. Not all of them have been released yet, but like there are 6 novels, all written by Timothy Zahn, who created Thrawn back in the 90s in the Heir to the Empire trilogy. So I like they've done this a lot, where they take a character and it's like, well, he's not in the same time period, because technically Thrawn is from the time period that the Mandalorian is in, and they took that
Right.
character and they put him in the time period of like the of Rogue One and Solo, right? That like before, or sorry, in between 3 and 4. So his story changed completely, and then he's I don't want to necessarily spoil Rebels, but he's lost in the Outer Rim and whatever. Like that's why Ahsoka's looking for him. So yeah, I expect that they'll do the same thing here, that some of the characters will be named after some of those Legends characters, but that they might be inspired by and very similar to, but they like the story is obviously not going to be exactly the same because the sequel trilogy happened and the Yuuzhan Vong never invaded and the galaxy didn't get wiped out in that way. So but who knows, maybe the Yuuzhan Vong are coming. That might be like it would be ridiculous and awesome if that's the direction that they're going to go, is if like post Rise of Skywalker, as Rey gets the new Jedi, her like whatever her Jedi order ends up being, off the ground, that the Yuuzhan Vong invade and eventually we get stories with those characters, with Rey and Finn and if there's a god and he's benevolent, Ben Solo comes back to life, and they have to fight these
that would be
anti-force
so cool.
users with weird tattoos and body modifications. It'd be very cool. That is a wild speculation on my part. That is totally out of line.
I expect nothing less.
But it would be cool if they went in that direction, because the thing about the Yuuzhan Vong, the great thing about the Vong is that they did not require the Sith to return. There was no need for Dark Jedi or any of that. Like the Jedi could be the Jedi, and they had a threat to fight. They've done a similar thing in the High Republic stuff that's coming out, where the Jedi are fighting this adversary called the Nihil, and Nihl, like nihilism, right?
Right.
That are like, we don't really know that much about them yet, but they're kind of outlaws, and the Jedi have to deal with the chaos that they're sowing throughout the galaxy. They got to keep the peace, right? So it's cool. Like that is it. This is the key to continuing the stories of Star Wars, is having threats other than Palpatine.
Right. Please.
Yeah, because we know how that worked out. Anyways, that's all of Lucasfilm stuff.
There's so many other things to talk about.
There's a lot of other stuff to talk about, but let's get into it. Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, Amanda, Hocus Pocus 2 is happening. This will be a massive disappointment. There's no way that this will be a good movie. So everybody just buckle up, get ready. It's not gonna go the way that everybody wants it to. But it will exist, and there might be some fun to get from it, as long as we understand
what it is. Yes. Yeah, like go into it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. They are
but the Three Men and a Baby remake from Zac Efron?
Yeah, they are rebooting Three Men and a Baby with Zac Efron.
That one. Here for it.
Let's go.
That one, like, come on. That'll be fun.
A new Cheaper by the Dozen with Kenya Barris and Gabrielle Union. So the very obvious thing there is that they're flipping the script on that, and it's going to be a mixed race family. Sorry, blended, like it's, I think the term that they used was blended. So I just said mixed race, but that's not necessarily accurate. I think they said blended, which would mean more so that it's two families coming together, which is not the case with the original Cheaper by the Dozen stories. Is that like those were all their kids, right, yeah. But yeah. So we'll see what that looks like. I love the Steve Martin, Bonnie Hunt, Cheaper by the Dozen movies. The two of them. Tom Welling is in those, and Lizzie McGuire. What's her face? Yes. Hilary Duff. She's in them as well.
But it's like the stakes are so low that like if you mess this movie up, I'm not going to be mad. But if it's fun, it's fun.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah,
Which is so great.
100%. And like this is the thing, is that like this is not like when they try and remake Ghostbusters and it's like, okay, you guys have a very high bar, because Ghostbusters is a near perfect film. Like it's like it's so close to perfection that why call it anything other than that? Whereas like 3 Men and a Baby is fantastic. I love that movie so much, and I love 3 Men and a Little Lady. I like these are
they're top
great
quality
films.
cinema.
Yeah, like these are perfect 10 movies. They get that stamp of approval from me. Cheaper by the Dozen, the first one, is also a great film. I don't care if they go in a completely different direction with these, if they're wildly different, whatever. I'm excited for them to happen. Then the last one, this is very cool. Sister Act is getting a third installment. This is a continuation. This is not a reboot. And Whoopi Goldberg is returning.
Okay.
Produced by Tyler Perry. It's going to be good. Yeah. I'm going to put my stamp on that one right now and say Sister Act 3 will be a good movie. That's going to be a good movie. Whoopi would not essentially come out of retirement. She doesn't do a lot these days, right? Like she hosts The View, right? She doesn't need to though. Like she's got more money than anybody needs. And she's an EGOT, for goodness sake. Like she's Whoopi. Like we don't even need to say her whole name. She's Whoopi. She would not be doing this unless like Tyler Perry very clearly has something that he wants to do with this property and said to Whoopi Goldberg, like, hey, I got an idea. And she was like, absolutely, let's have fun. So if they're having fun, I think that the rest of us are going to have fun. So I'm excited for that. Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, a hybrid live-action animated film starring John Mulaney and Andy Samberg, is a sentence that feels good in my mouth.
I know.
It's so just great. How... I don't know what I did to deserve this, but I need to keep doing it because this is fantastic news. It could also be an absolute train wreck, but it doesn't matter. I'll have fun.
Some of these have to be bad, but you know what? There's enough here that I'm like, sure.
I'm drinking out of a Chip and Dale Christmas mug right now. My favorite Christmas not like Christmas thing to watch every year at Christmas is Pluto's Christmas Tree, which is a short. You can watch it on Disney Plus actually, where that involves Chip and Dale. It's like a classic Chip and Dale short cartoon, where Pluto is mad that they're inside the Christmas tree that Mickey cut down and put in the house, and hijinks ensue. I love Chip and Dale so much. Rescue Rangers is like formative. It would be on the CBC every year back in the day.
Yeah. I think I totally remember
like at Christmas time. So it's just a Christmas tradition for me. We've watched it like 10 times. Me and the girls, because they love it.
Is it on Disney Plus right now?
Yeah. And I even have like I have a Christmas ornament that is Dale with he goes and he stands next to the candles, the Santa Claus candles, and he pulls the beard and hat off of it and puts it on himself to like try and pretend to be one of the candles. And then Mickey comes over and lights it. And then Chip has to run over and he gets the little thing to put out the candle. I have an ornament that is Dale with the lit candle, like with the lit wick on his head, and Chip about to put it out. Because I love that animated short so much. So, and then Rescue Rangers is just more awesome with those characters. So Seth Rogen is apparently also involved in this in some way, because why wouldn't he be? I guess I don't know. John Mulaney did just check himself into rehab like today, I think, or over the weekend. So I hopefully that's not going to affect anything on this, and hopefully he has a hopefully it's a short stay at rehab, and he gets whatever he needs to get back in order. He's had substance abuse problems for like he's been dealing with substance issues for a long time. So certainly not the news that Disney wanted right after they announced this, but John Mulaney's still a wholesome guy, even though he has a cocaine problem. It doesn't matter. It's that we're judging by the content of his character, not by his
rehab is a good step, right? That's you doing something. Hey, did we know that The Little Mermaid was going to be live action?
Yes. This was announced forever ago.
How do you make Scuttle into a live action character?
Poorly. So
I just
Pinocchio, Peter Pan and Wendy, The Little Mermaid, these are all gonna be bad.
Disenchanted.
Disenchanted
Amy,
is gonna be fantastic
Amy
because that
Adams
is
sequel.
yeah.
Oh, come on.
Um,
Great.
it's sequel to Enchanted.
Yeah.
Do we need to talk about all of these? I don't think we do. They're making a Night at the Museum series, which is interesting. Jungle Cruise is gonna be released on Disney Plus, which is cool. And then Cruella is the Emma Stone 101 Dalmatians prequel about the
Oh,
origin story of Cruella de Vil.
that's so cool. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it could be that one could be good because I like that they're going a different direction with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're doing a prequel to The Lion King. Actually, I think they're doing 2 prequels to The Lion King,
Interesting.
which is also a bad idea, but whatever.
And something called Flora and Ulysses,
I don't
which is
see
like
that on mine.
it's called a cynical young comic book fan and her superpowered squirrel sidekick team up in Flora and Ulysses, an original movie streaming February 19th. It looks like really young content.
Oh, I might not be there yet.
Oh, maybe sorry. This is under the Disney film section. I think I'm on a different article than you, but
Yeah,
it's
you
covering the
definitely
same amount of things.
We already talked about Raya and the Last Dragon, so they announced that was coming out in March. I think we talked about that a few weeks ago when they announced this, and we said there's no way that that's gonna work. It's either gonna get pushed or they're gonna do Premier Access. They are doing Premier Access, so that's exciting. But hopefully, if we're lucky, some of us by March might be able to go into a movie theater.
Hopefully, yeah.
Those of us who might be
But
able to get some
like
vaccines.
Kelly Marie Tran and Aquafina Man, I'm here for that.
Yeah,
That's so exciting.
it looks fantastic. It looks awesome.
Yeah.
But we've talked about that before. We don't need to get into it.
Yeah.
And Encanto is a new one that they announced, which looks really cool. I think
Encanto?
Encanto. Yeah, it's Colombia. So
Oh,
it's a
right,
new
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
new Disney like sort of fairy tale, where a magical family live in a magical home, and it's based off of Colombian,
Cool.
like sort of fairy tale
Man,
mythology.
Lin-Manuel Miranda is officially the composer
He's doing
for
the
Disney.
music for almost all of this.
Yeah.
If it's not Alan Menken, then it is Lin-Manuel Miranda. But
Yeah.
Can
I talk about? I want to talk about the combination that they're going to work with the African entertainment company Kugali to create the sci-fi series Iwaju.
Can we go through on the list that I've got though?
Can we? Oh, sure.
Because you're jumping all over the place, and then we're gonna end up missing something. So
okay.
We've got the short. So they're doing a bunch of like these animated series. Some of them are shorts, and others are actual like full on series. So Baymax and Zootopia Plus are going to be like little short presentation things. But then Tiana and Moana the series are going to be like actual series. So Tiana is about Tiana from Princess and the Frog, and then Moana obviously is about Moana. And then Iwaju is the thing that you were talking about.
I'm in the same vein. I'm talking about Disney animated stuff.
But I just don't want to miss stuff. Very cool. But we don't know anything about any of this stuff. Like that's kind of the problem, is that they announced a lot of stuff, and they did this for a very, very clear reason. It wasn't for us. It was absolutely for investors. It is Disney Investor
to show that
Day.
there's like stuff that's coming.
Their stock hit an all-time high the next day.
Yeah,
like the highest. So Disney has like taken a massive dive in the stock market this year for very obvious reasons. They've had all of their parks closed forever. Not all of their parks, because I guess Florida's been open, and I think Shanghai is open as well. Maybe Hong Kong, but I think one of the parks in Japan is open, but not both of them. But Disneyland itself has been closed since March, and it's a real big issue for them. They're losing a lot of money. So the whole point of announcing all of this stuff was just for the stock price to go through the roof, which it literally did. so they announce a lot of stuff that is in very early development. Don't count on every single one of these things happening. I just want to like put that in everybody's mind, especially when we get into this Marvel stuff. If we look at what has been announced in the past from Marvel and what has actually come out, there are a lot of projects that were announced and have never seen the light of day other than the announcement. So just keep that in mind when we go through all of this stuff. We're now into Pixar stuff. Turning Red is this new one that they've got, which is about a girl who turns into a giant red panda. They likened it to the Hulk.
The interesting part about that is that it's from the Bao director Domi Shi.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited about.
But it looks cool. I mean, it looks cute. It'll be a Pixar movie. So in the first 10 minutes, they'll really bum us out. Someone will die, or they'll move away, or the whole planet will be destroyed. You know, just regular wholesome Pixar stuff. Win or Lose is their first series. It's a long form animated series, which is cool. That Pixar is branching out into this, because that means that they're gonna have to figure out a way to bum us out every episode instead of just in over the course of 2 hours. So that's a new challenge for Pixar. I'm excited that they're taking that challenge on. A movie that will not bum anybody out ever at any point in time will be Lightyear, which this one, again, like Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, Lightyear is the definitive origin story of the hero that inspired the toy Buzz Lightyear. Chris Evans will voice the hero on his journey to becoming the most famous space ranger ever. Chris Evans is Buzz Lightyear, not the toy Buzz Lightyear, the real Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah,
and that,
which I think is cool.
This is the next day. I was on Twitter, obviously. I'm on Twitter all the time. But the next day I was on Twitter and somebody tweeted, Lightyear, like a movie that no one asked for. And I was like, excuse you, but I've been asking for this movie since 1995. So, yeah, and especially since Toy Story 2, which opens with the Buzz Lightyear video game sequence that has like all the Star Wars references in it, and I like down to the Zurg being like, "No, I am your father." This is the first Pixar movie that I have been excited about since Toy Story 3. Because everything since Toy Story 3 has just been like sequels we didn't ask for, or like more Cars movies, right? Or really depressing movies like Up and WALL-E, that are like, hey, look at these two characters that found each other in this incredibly bleak and horrible world that just chews people up and spits them out. Yeah, it's great. The only thing we have is each other because everything else is going to hell. That's Pixar's overall message. I don't know how they can do that with Buzz Lightyear, but they can probably find a way. But I'm really hoping that I'm really hoping this is just a straight action, because the other thing is that like Lasseter is not part of Pixar anymore. So like John Lasseter. So they may be going in a completely different direction from what they've done in the past. I think that the way that I talk about Pixar is also a trap that they've fallen into, and I think that they're aware of it, and they're gonna start moving out of it, not just doing the same stuff, because the last few Pixar movies have not necessarily done what they had hoped they would do. Like Toy Story definitely made a lot of money, but it wasn't particularly well received critically.
I can't even remember what the last Pixar movie was. That's how
Onward was the last Pixar movie, and
yeah.
the reason why you don't really remember that is because of the pandemic. So that one's kind of got an asterisk next to it. But here's the thing about Onward: wasn't going to do particularly well anyways, because it's not. I started
watching it, and it's not the
great.
best.
They honestly, like, they they've gone to the well too many times and it's dry now. Like they keep trying to do the same thing. And like it's an admirable goal, which is to make uh, animated films that appeal to both children and adults that have heart and a moral center. I don't fault them for that. The fault that I have is that sometime around Toy Story 3, it stopped being about telling stories with that sort of motivation, and it became about churning out that formula over and over and over again. And they got really really good at it, and Up and Wally are expertly crafted to do that, but it's almost a little bit too good. Like they got so good at it that it became kind of mechanical in my opinion. And then like down the road, like they had other movies that had problems in production, like Brave. And they've just, I don't think that they've really put anything great out since Toy Story 3, in my opinion. Everything has kind of either been um I on the surface really good, but like sort of like people will always fight me on this and be like, no, Up and Wally are great movies. And it's like, yeah, do you want to watch one of them right now? Because nobody does. Like
I mean,
very few people would log into Disney Plus and look at all of the movies that they have to watch and go, I'm gonna sit through Wally.
yeah,
I'm definitely like, Wally is a movie that you watch once and you're like, that was really good. I never need to watch that movie again. Because it's like it's 2 hours of characters not talking. Like it's an art film, and like that's cool. It's great, but it's definitely not like, it's not Toy Story, right? Like, which, like, Toy Story, like you can watch those first 3 movies over and over again. Toy Story 4 is an absolute nightmare in my opinion. And I mean that in a very literal sense. Like they take the scene with Sid's room and they like crank that up to 11 in Toy Story 4, and like with talking ventriloquist dolls, and it's just like Kara
creepy.
left that movie and she doesn't want to watch the other Toy Story movies because that's the first one that she saw, and she's like, I don't like
Oh,
Toy Story, it's scary.
yeah,
And
that's
I'm
fair.
like, I look, hey, you're right. And that, so to me, it's like, that's where Toy Story 4 is the one that definitely points to me, like, they lost it. Like they completely lost the thread, because Toy Story 4 is not for children. Could find me a kid who likes Toy Story 4, right? Like that doesn't already have an attachment to Buzz Lightyear and Woody, right, from other
Yeah.
stuff. Like a kid who was introduced to it with Toy Story 4 is going to be like, no, I don't like this. They absolutely made that movie for the adults that were kids in 1995, and don't do that. Just never do that. Don't change your property. Just make a new entry in your property. Like, that's, yeah. Anyways, Lightyear, I have high hopes for. I'm also like, I'm cautiously optimistic for it. They're also working on series about, so there's a Cars series that they're doing, Doug Days, which is the dog from Up. uh I don't think that anybody cares. Pixar Popcorn, which I think is a series of shorts inside Pixar, which will be like the Disney Gallery series, I think, for the Mandalorian, where it's just like a behind the scenes sort of thing. And then they've got Soul coming out on Christmas Day, which is just on Disney Plus on Christmas Day. It's not premiere access, it's just available to everybody. And a new short, Burrow. So yeah.
They
I
did you talk about Luca already?
No, I didn't. Sorry, I think I skipped over that. Yeah. Luca. Yeah. Luca is a celebration of the friendship between a boy named Luca and his best friend Alberto during their unforgettable summer. You
Because
don't
that
want to
one's
miss
coming
it.
soon, though. But it's coming
Diving
soon. Like
into
that's the.
theaters June 2021. Yeah, one of them is definitely gonna die, probably by drowning, because
Oh my
diving. It's
god.
an unforgettable summer. Diving into theaters.
Uh,
One of them's definitely going to get like washed out to sea or something. Look forward to Pixar really making you feel happy about that. I am just trying to set people up with low expectations for Pixar so that they can all tell me that I'm wrong. Um, But I will fight anybody who says that Incredibles 2 is a good movie, and especially if you say that it's better than Incredibles, because Incredibles 2 is an awful film with a very misogynistic story at the heart of it. It's incredibly sexist and it's very harmful, but for a movie that came out in the time that it did. But we've talked about that in the past. Now we're on to Marvel, and then I think once we do Marvel, we're done. So Marvel announced about 10,000 new things. And like I said before, I wouldn't get your hopes up on seeing every single one of these things. I don't know that all of this is going to happen in the way that they talked about it in this investor call, because we've been burned by this in the past.
But some of this stuff is the same as what they had previously.
A lot of this is the same. A bunch of this is the same, but then they announced a bunch of stuff that is like really, really far out, like Armor Wars and Secret Invasion. Like we'll see. We'll see what happens with this stuff. So Secret Invasion I don't think Secret Invasion will actually be a movie. I think this is one of the things, is that like I don't think Armor Wars will be a movie, and I don't think Secret Invasion will be a movie. I think that these will be like
mini things,
almost like phases within the phase sort of thing.
But they're sort of calling them series, aren't they? They're not even saying that they're necessarily movies.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's weird because some of these are movies and some of these are series, and they weren't really clear on all of them necessarily. So the stuff that we already knew about was Blade, Doctor Strange 2, Eternals, Hawkeye, Loki, Shang-Chi, Thor Love and Thunder, Falcon and Winter Soldier, What If, and is there anything else? I guess Black Widow, which still hasn't come out but will come out.
Yeah.
The new stuff that they announced, there's a lot of this stuff that has kind of been announced but not really like talked about. So obviously we also know about WandaVision, which we're going to get next month. So finally, yeah, we're getting something MCU. Yeah. Finally.
And it looks really good though. If we're gonna start with something, like, I'm happy for it to be WandaVision.
I think it'll work out for the best. And then Falcon and Winter Soldier is really close. And then we got our first look at Loki, which it looks like it's a very, very comic book story, and everybody's instincts were right on this one. Like it's Loki gets the Tesseract. But I don't think that a lot of people had the TVA as part of the plot there. So it's basically they're basically like the Time Bureau from DC, where it's like and Loki's going to be working for them and basically being sent throughout time to I think fix stuff, but he will be messing with stuff. So it looks fun. It looks like it's going to be really great. The surprises.
That one's coming out relatively soon though too, right?
Loki, I think, is meant to be next year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So either that or it's early 2022. Yeah. So like I said, they announced Secret Invasion, which is a series starring Samuel L. Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn as Fury and Talos, the Skrull. So Secret Invasion is a story from the comics from about, I don't know, it's like within the last 10 years, where it turned out that for like the last couple decades, the Skrulls have been slowly replacing people all over Earth, and including some of our superheroes. And then when they're ready for their invasion, they do their thing. So Secret Invasion is what the post-credit scene of Captain Marvel was setting up with Sword, which is the space station that Fury is on at the end of the movie. Sorry, not at the end of Captain Marvel, at the end of Spider-Man.
Right. I was going to say he's on a ship, right?
I don't know, like we'll see when this happens and sort of how it ties into everything, but Secret Invasion is huge. Like that's a very big story, and if they're going to make it a series, it's, I don't know, I think the biggest thing with Marvel is that we have to see how WandaVision works before we'll have an idea of how this other stuff is going to work. Because the next thing in their list is Ironheart and then Armor Wars. Ironheart is about a character, Riri. Shoot, what's her last? I can't remember her last name right now. I haven't read Ironheart yet because I've been waiting to pick up trades.
It's a comic book though.
Yeah. So she's a character when right before Tony Stark died in the comics very recently. They introduced this character. I think it's Riri Williams.
It is, yeah.
And she is the next Tony Stark. She's part of like they set up Ironheart in Civil War. In Civil War, when Tony is talking about the whatever, what was the foundation that he sets up? In honor of his mom. Whatever
right.
I can't remember
idea.
what it's called.
But yeah,
whatever. It's called.
And the thing that he like is talking about or whatever. Yeah.
And he's like all of your stuff just got funded, right? Like to the crowded MIT. It's like everything just got funded. So I guarantee you that Riri will be a recipient of this. This is pointing towards something that I said out loud in the hopes that somehow it would manifest, but with the thought that there is no way they're going to do this. There is no way they could possibly ever do this. And that was walking out of Endgame. I think either in the theater or like on the ride home with Crystal, I was like, so with Tony dead and with the characters that they've set up. So the ones that we have right now is War Machine. We've got Rescue, which is Pepper, right? We have Peter Parker, Spider-Man. He has one of the suits. He's got the Iron Spider suit, which it counts as an Iron Man suit. Because it was built by Iron Man. Iron is in the name. We've got Harley, the kid from Iron Man 3, who was included in the funeral in Endgame. There's a reason they did that. That wasn't just like oh neat. That there's a reason why Harley was in that scene, and it was basically Kevin Feige telling everybody we haven't forgot that this character exists. September Foundation, that's what it was. So they established the September Foundation, which to me was like, we will get Ironheart eventually, and at some point, why am I blanking on her name? His daughter Morgan is going to put on a suit. That there's no way that doesn't happen and that she doesn't join Young Avengers. We'll get to Young Avengers in a second, but Armor Wars is definitely going to involve no less than half of the characters that I just mentioned. So it's definitely going to have Ironheart and War Machine. There's no way that doesn't happen. There's a possibility that Spider-Man could play a role. I don't think he will, because the deal with Sony is kind of tenuous at the moment. But who knows? Like, I don't know, right? Like maybe. I do think that Harley will be making a return in Armor Wars. I think that they
cool.
included him for that. And I think that one of the things there is that he is going to be one of the ones to try and like kind of take up the mantle of Iron Man.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you remember, he was also a little kid genius building stuff in his garage in Tennessee. I can't remember where they were. But anyways, Middle America, right? So I'm very excited to see what this is, because obviously I'm an Iron Man fan, so this is kind of the legacy of Tony Stark. But the other thing that this points to is that Justin Hammer is absolutely coming back. If someone other than Justin Hammer is the villain in this story, I will be very disappointed. I will eat my hat the things that I say about when I make bold proclamations about. There's no way that you don't bring back Sam Rockwell if you have the opportunity to bring back Sam Rockwell.
But he
right?
was in which version was he?
He's the bad guy in Iron Man 2.
In Iron Man 2. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
No, that's why it hasn't been on my Marvel rewatch yet this year.
The last time that we saw him chronologically was in Hail to the King, which was on which Blu-ray was that on? Civil War, I think. I think that's on the Civil War Blu-ray. So that's one of the last one-shots that they did, which were like the little short films that they would do with the Blu-ray releases. And Hail to the King is about the Mandarin, but the Mandarin that's not the Mandarin. Right?
Yeah.
And it's about the Mandarin that's not the Mandarin finding out that there actually is a Mandarin. And Sam Rockwell as Justin Hammer is in that. He's in that short. And we're going to get the fulfillment of that thread from Hail to the King in Shang-Chi, because it's Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. He's going to fight the Mandarin. That's what that story's about. So, everything's connected. Scrolling down on this, WandaVision, Winter Soldier, and Loki. Like I said, we already know so much about this. What if they give us our first look at, which is really cool. CG animated series.
I saw that trailer was cool.
Yeah,
to just see it, something different, right?
We had a lot of this information already, which is that like we would get the what if. Man, I'm doing terrible with names because it's almost 11 o'clock. Peggy Carter got the super soldier serum instead of Steve Rogers, so she becomes Captain America. There's another one that's what if T'Challa was taken by the Ravagers instead of Peter Quill.
So that was cool. Star-Lord. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
There's a Marvel Zombies story that they're gonna do. Like they're just gonna have some fun with alternate timelines and what if stories. Miss Marvel was announced last year, I think.
But we got the actual sizzle for this. Yeah,
but we got the sizzle and we got the official confirmation that I hate that they don't have all of the information in this article. It's really annoying. I don't know her name off the top of my head, but that they cast Kamala, the Miss Marvel. They also announced that Miss Marvel Kamala would be appearing in Captain Marvel 2. And that it'll tie together. So that's awesome. That also says to me like Brie Larson will be in Miss Marvel at some point.
That's hope. Iman Vellani?
Yeah, thank you.
Vellani.
They also confirmed that Haley Steinfeld
she's Canadian. Sorry, every time I see that. Yeah, they've cast a Canadian actress. How cool.
Hawkeye, they confirmed that Haley Steinfeld is joining Jeremy Renner as
oh yeah.
I'm doing terrible at this tonight.
The Hawk something, the like,
well, she becomes
Kim
Hawkeye.
Something?
She's Kate Bishop. Man.
Right.
I do know this stuff. I have
I'm sorry,
read
I can't tell you. I can't.
No, it's okay.
I don't.
it's doing really bad things for my cred. And they also I think this is the first time. There's a lot of this stuff that was like reported, but it was reported by like Deadline and Variety and stuff, but not actually announced by Disney. And I think that She-Hulk with Tatiana Maslany in the title role was announced for the first time. And they also announced that Mark Ruffalo and Tim Roth will also be in it. Mark Ruffalo obviously being the Bruce Banner that we have come to love since Avengers, but Tim Roth being from The Incredible Hulk. He's Abomination. So that's a big deal. That's a very big deal. That this is the first character from directly from that, other than General Thunderbolt, who Thunderbolt Ross, right?
And it's supposed to be like the idea though in the lore is that he is that Hulk, right? Like the Incredible Hulk is part of the Marvel universe. They just recast that.
They just recast, yeah. That story is canon MCU.
It's canon. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and we've just never gone back to his story. So the reason why is because Marvel and Disney still don't have the rights to make Hulk movies, but the
Oh, right.
Hulk, they have the rights to the character, but they can't make Hulk movies. So they can't
Right.
make a movie that is about Bruce Banner. So
Right.
they basically can't tell a story about Betsy Ross. That's why Betsy Ross has never come back. Um,
Hmm. Got
it's not that like everybody hates Liv Tyler, so we're just not gonna go.
it.
It's no, they literally like cannot tell those stories. They can't tell stories about characters that are just Hulk characters. But
Right.
because the Hulk is one of the founding members of the Avengers, there's like a loophole that they're allowed to use the Hulk and stuff. And
Right.
because Thunderbolt Ross has been a main character in other stuff and has had like his own series, basically they were allowed to use him. So it's like there are characters that, because they like cross boundaries, they're like, well, we can use this character because it's not the Hulk version, it's this version,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Okay. That makes
Because
sense.
the deal with Universal is weird. It's not as tight as the Sony or Fox ones were, where it was
Right.
very like, you can't touch these, right? Like Sony and Fox had better lawyers basically, and Universal was like, whatever, it's the Hulk, nobody cares. Nobody's ever going to want to make these movies other than us. This is not going to be the most successful franchise on the planet, dwarfing Star Wars. No, that'll never happen. The exciting thing about this is that She-Hulk will definitely be a comedic series, so we're gonna get to see more of Mark Ruffalo doing the Thor Ragnarok Hulk, right? Like,
Version, which is so
yeah,
fun.
it'll be
Yeah.
much more of that than the Avengers and Age of Ultron Hulk. So, and I because of the timeline, he'll be Smart Hulk, right? Like he'll just
Oh,
be a
right. Yeah.
big
Yeah.
green guy, and that's cool because She-Hulk, that's one of the things is that like She-Hulk, like she is literally his cousin in the comics, and I'm sure that they'll
Mm.
continue that in this story. Um, she becomes the She-Hulk, and she doesn't have to change back. Like she
Ah,
can do it at will. It's not
right.
like activated by anger, and she's not out of control. So she's a lawyer. This will be a legal show. This will be a lawyer show.
Nice.
And she will be a 7 foot tall green lawyer.
That's
And
awesome.
that's awesome. It's gonna be great. I'm really looking forward to She-Hulk. I think that they're gonna have a lot of fun with that. They confirmed Moon Knight, which was one of those things that was kind of shadow announced and not really announced, but they confirmed it. They have not confirmed Oscar Isaac as the lead character yet, but that
Hmm.
was kind of leaked already. My guess is that they're just saving that for another investors call, or because they got to save something for 3 months down the road. Um, Otherwise, they won't get to see those stock bumps. Or they just haven't figured out scheduling and therefore have not inked the deal yet with Oscar Isaac, but that is happening. Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, directed by James Gunn. So this is like literally in the vein of the original Star Wars Holiday Special. That is his inspiration. He's apparently had this idea since before Guardians Volume 2.
No way.
And
Nice.
now they're finally letting him make it. I think that this might have been part of his deal to come back. I think that he might have said, but you guys are going to let me make this thing that I really want to make. And then I'll like, we'll let bygones be bygones, and I'll come back and I'll stop making movies for DC. Because Suicide Squad looks awesome. And then I Am Groot, which is a bunch of shorts. I don't think I need to explain what that is. They announced 2 new feature films: Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which
Just sounds.
the bad guy's going to be Kang the Conqueror. Kang is a
Yeah.
time travel bad guy. He's
Right
from
on.
the distant future. Um,
Nice.
yeah, so that's cool that he's going to be the bad guy in this. I think I'm curious if he's going to be the bad guy or if he's going to be introduced in it in the same way that Thanos was introduced in Avengers, because Kang is Thanos level. Like
Interesting.
he is one of the
Okay.
Avengers, like number one. It's like Yeah, it's like Ultron would be, I think, number one, is like their number one villain, because they created him. And then it would be like probably Doctor Doom, and then Thanos and Kang would be like in the same sentence, sort of thing. So he's being introduced. He's been cast. I can't remember the name of the actor, but he's the lead actor from Lovecraft Country.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
which is cool
Nice.
because he's really great in Lovecraft Country. So I excited about that. And then they finally announced Fantastic Four, but they still haven't said anything about the X-Men.
The
So
best worst kept secret in the universe.
yeah. But the overall thing to take away from this Marvel stuff is that multiverse is going to be a word that everybody is going to be very familiar with by the end of this, because they talked about the fact that WandaVision ties into Doctor Strange, which ties into Spider-Man 3.
Oh,
Which they
okay.
didn't talk about Spider-Man because that's the Sony thing, and I think that maybe Sony is going to announce that themselves, that they'll do their own thing when they want to talk about that. But at the same time that all of this stuff was happening, for like it basically in the lead up to and the fall from Disney Investor Day, we learned a lot about a bunch of characters that are showing up in this next Spider-Man movie, the next Tom Holland Spider-Man. And it's like basically everybody from all of the old Spider-Man movies. So they're doing live action Spider-Verse in some way. It'll be really interesting to see if they actually tie the next Spider-Man MCU movie into Spider-Verse 2, because Into the Spider-Verse 2
That'd
is
be so
coming
cool.
in 2022. But we're getting the next Spider-Man movie next, I think it's next December. Um so yeah, I think that it, like, one might actually lead into the other, and that it might all connect to, or like we know that it all connects into Doctor Strange.
Right.
I don't have the timeline in front of me because I'd have to look at it to see where Spider-Man is in relation to MCU Spider-Man 3 release date. December 17th, 2021. And then let's look at Doctor Strange 2 release date is March 24th, 2022. Now, this is I wrong. This is like not the way that it was supposed to happen. Um I Doctor Strange was supposed to come out in May of 2021. It was supposed to, like, we were supposed to be a lot further down the road than we are.
Right.
But yeah, we're getting Black Widow, and then Shang-Chi, and then I think Eternals, and then Spider-Man. So it's all a little bit discombobulated, but WandaVision, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man are all going to be connected in some way. And I think that by the end of the multiverse stuff, when Doctor Strange fixes everything, um, there's no reason why you would set this up with Wanda if you weren't using her to bring mutants into the MCU. That's
Oh yeah. That makes
because in the
sense.
comics she's the one who removes mutants from the world, right? Like the no more
Yeah.
mutants thing is a very well known piece of comics lore. So
Mm.
um I firmly believe that by the end of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, we are going to be living in an MCU world with mutants, and I think that the post credit scene of Doctor Strange will be the X-Men. And they just want to
Oh.
save that. Like, they're just not going to tell us about it until after that happens.
Hmm.
And that, like, we'd be very close to that now if not for the pandemic, but it is what it is.
All of
So
the
I
things
think
that are
that they're about a
happening.
year
Yeah.
behind on X-Men. I and I think that's why they gave us Fantastic Four now,
Right.
is to just be like, we are doing stuff with these things that we just got back,
Yeah.
like don't worry, there will be X-Men movies. But yeah, other than that, it's ESPN stuff, and nobody cares about ESPN.
Yeah. There are certain people, but yes, I agree.
You know what? There's probably 5% of our audience that actually cares about ESPN, but they don't care about what we have to say about ESPN. I know that.
That's
for
fair.
Sure.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's it. We just went through the whole thing. That's everything.
This is the big question for you now, though. Which thing are you most excited about?
Rogue Squadron. Easy.
Oh, okay.
That's not even like I don't even have to think about it.
All right. Well, there you go.
It's definitely Rogue Squadron, directed by Patty Jenkins. But if you want to ask me to go through like each one of the things, for Star Wars, it's Rogue Squadron. For Disney, it's Raya, which is exciting because that's like the next thing that happens. But I am really excited for Raya and the Last Dragon. I think that's going to be really cool.
Nice.
For Pixar, it is obviously Buzz Lightyear. And then for Marvel is tough. But I think it's still Shang-Chi, and then after Shang-Chi, it'll be Spider-Man. And then
Shang-Chi's mine too for Marvel.
Yeah, once Spider-Man happens, it'll be Doctor Strange. So that's sort of like my stack rank of that. Nice. Everything else that they announced is also going to be awesome, and I'm very excited for. But those are the things that I'm like, if I could snap my fingers and have 3 things right now, it would be Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man.
Nice.
Which, like, Shang-Chi very obviously takes the place of whatever the next Iron Man story was going to be. So, but I think that's like, I think they're kind of setting him up to this next phase. One of the reasons why they were going to start with Black Widow, which they still are, but like Black Widow, and then do supposed to be Eternals next, and then Shang-Chi. But was it? Yeah, is that right? That's right. But Shang-Chi, I think, is meant to be the thing, like, to do for them what Iron Man did in 2008. Right. Of like, here's a character that nobody cares about, that nobody really knows anything about, that doesn't really have a great rogues gallery, but that will be a great character, like a classic, instant classic film character. And Simu Liu being the actor portraying it, it's like, we know because we have been watching Kim's Convenience in Canada, and I think that like other people are starting to catch on to this. Mm-hmm. But the whole world is going to know who Simu is by the time Shang-Chi happens. And he is going to be one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. There's no doubt in my mind. He actually posted a thing on Twitter today, actually I think on all of his social media today, of a little like short film that he made with some friends. That is like, it's not even a short film. It's literally just some martial arts choreography. Mm-hmm. And it's awesome. It's incredible. And it's him. Like, he's doing the martial arts. And it's very, very, very promising for what we're going to get from Shang-Chi. Which I think was the whole point. Like, I think that he made it with his friends just for fun. But that, like, releasing it on social media was very much like, hey, Shang-Chi is coming, guys. Like, this is a thing that's happening, and it's going to be legit. Like, this is going to be an actual kung fu movie in the MCU. Yeah, it's exciting. I'm very excited about
it. Yes.
So for you, what is it for you? So go through Star Wars, Disney, Pixar, Marvel.
Well, I mean, I'm excited for the Obi-Wan series because it's Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen.
Yeah.
Like that. It just sounds super fun. But I mean, like, I think it's just because I don't know enough. Like, if I knew enough about Ahsoka, I think I'd be really excited about that series as well. Mm-hmm. And Andor, but I do think it's the Obi-Wan series. Mostly, I just don't know enough about the Rogue Squadron. But I'm excited for Patty Jenkins, so that's cool. I should finish the book Children of Blood and Bone. I'm like halfway through it. But, I didn't know about the Cruella series or movie, and that sounds fun as well. But it's
I think it's up your alley because it's basically like a Disney Devil Wears Prada, right? Like,
it just seems kind of kind of fun and cute. But I also found out about Disenchanted from reading this thing too. So I'm kind of like, well, maybe Disenchanted. So one of those two. And then all of the animation stuff looks good. I mean, Raya is coming so soon, but I actually think some of the like other random series. I mean, it was the first time that Iwaju that I like. I just think it's interesting when they partner with studios that are like not focused on North American content.
Yeah.
I think it's something like it's like Lagos or something that it's like that's the place that they're going to be featured in that, and I just think that that's really cool to explore different sort of animation styles, and I just think there's such an awesome world. But my favorite sort of, I don't know if it's my favorite Disney movie, but it's like high up there is so I'm excited for the Baymax series. What did I just fell out of my brain? What is the
Big Hero 6?
Yeah, Big Hero 6. So, I hope that that's not, because you sort of like said that it wouldn't be something big, but I'm kind of like, I'd like it to be like a little series.
No, the Baymax
like,
series is a series. It's like they're shorts, and it's basically Baymax going around
Just
like
Baymax.
helping people.
Okay.
Fulfilling his original purpose that he was
which is
designed
just
for,
helping
which is
people.
to be a
Okay.
personal health assistant or whatever he says.
I wish it was a little bit more, because I think that the characters from Big Hero 6 are
Well,
so
you know
cool,
that
and
there's
so
a
much to explore.
cartoon, right?
No.
Yeah, okay. There is a Big Hero 6 animated series already.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
know
that already exists. It's 2D, it's not 3D, but it's
Okay.
it's got to be on Disney Plus. I would
I
be
was
really
gonna say it
surprised if
should
it's
be.
not.
Maybe okay. I'll go check it out.
Yeah.
Check it out.
It's a Disney XD series, so it might be not
maybe
all
I
of it
haven't.
will be on Disney Plus yet. Yeah, Big Hero 6 the series is definitely on Disney Plus.
All right.
And they have at least 2 seasons. Yeah, and I think that there's a 3rd season that's happening right now. So
nice.
Okay,
yeah, well then I have enough content for myself.
Yeah,
for
you got a lot. It's good
content.
too. Like it's not I'm not like crazy into it. I've watched a couple episodes, but it's good. It's well made.
Right on.
Uh-huh.
I have a similar thing with Pixar. I'm kind of like bummed out about all this stuff. I'm excited that Domishi is getting an opportunity to direct something big. So Turning Red, I really have high hopes for. I hope that it's good. But Lightyear is obviously the most exciting thing that's coming out of Pixar. Very excited about that. And then I'm actually really excited for Miss Marvel when it comes to the Marvel, like the Marvel Universe stuff. As well, like if I have to go, because you gave your 3 for Marvel, so it's Shang-Chi, and then I think Miss Marvel, and then WandaVision.
Yeah. You know, I am also very excited for Miss Marvel. It's yeah. And the MCU is just doing a million good things. Marvel Studios is just firing on all cylinders. So.
Everything is doing this. What a fun time to be alive. Just like looking at all of this content.
Hey,
just
you
all
know,
sorts of fun
if you're
things.
gonna be alive for the end of Western culture, at least it's going out with a bang. You know what I mean? Like, because I mean, like, just check in with American politics every now and then, see how this pandemic has been handled, and you know, like we're hopeful for the future because at least an adult will be in the White House as of January, but as of recording this on December 21st at 11:15 at night, Trump still hasn't conceded. He will be the first president in the history of the United States of America to not concede. So, you know, like, I also...
What a little toddler.
I also am not 100% clear on the rules here, but I'm pretty sure he can run again, right?
Yeah.
Like,
he can.
We're gonna have to deal with him again in 4 years, and really 3.
Yeah. Or like if they let him run again.
Oh man, can they stop him? Like, that's the thing.
Well, then he has to be nominated by the Republicans.
Yeah. And is that... oh, you're right, because it's such a hallowed process. It is sacred and absolutely not corrupted by anything the color green. Which he could absolutely weasel his way back in. yeah, so, you know, as much as we're out of the woods, we're not out of the woods. So at least we've got all these things to look forward to. We barely even talked about Blade. I think I mentioned it, but like that's still like Mahershala Ali's Blade is still happening, and
Ugh, there's just so many cool
like
things.
there are so many sentences that I got to say in this episode that are just they're just fun to say. It just feels good. Um, yeah, man. I I I really hope that somewhere along the line somebody screws up and one of these movies or series is really bad, just so that we can release that pressure valve. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
like
because
it's
it's
just
because
like
you want everything to be so good,
yeah,
but yeah.
it's like I think there's a lot of people who like Rise of Skywalker like was like a hot water tank bursting. Whereas for me, it's like, yeah, I'm pissed off about Rise of Skywalker still a year later, which we are. We are a year later right now. But like almost to the day. I but because Rogue One didn't work for me, I think like I was able to like just it's not like Rogue One was awful. Rogue One was just not great to me, right? So we were able to just a little bit of that pressure out. So when Rise of Skywalker was a massive disappointment, it was like it didn't destroy me like it has
Right.
a lot of my friends that I talk to online about Star Wars, where they're upset about things that have happened in The Mandalorian this season because of trauma from Rise of Skywalker, because they liked Rogue One and Solo, so
Right.
like they weren't prepared to not like a Star Wars,
Right.
especially going into the third, like coming off of the high of Last Jedi, right?
Right.
Um, and we're currently coming off of the high of Endgame, and it's like it's a high. Even like we're a year and a half later, right? And by the time that we get Black Widow, it'll be 2 years since Endgame.
Jeez. Wow.
Yeah, because we've gone a whole calendar year with no MCU. Like,
Huh.
think about that. It was
We
10
haven't.
years.
Wow.
It was
Yeah.
10 years of like not 10 years straight, because there was Iron Man, and then there was Iron Man and Hulk came out within a couple months each other, and then there was a gap. There was like a 2 year gap before Iron Man 2, and then I think it was like almost a year until Thor and Cap, and then Avengers was the following year. Like it took them a while to get to the cadence of like here's 3 movies every year, but then they
Yeah.
got there. Whereas like here's
Yeah.
3 movies every year. Oh, and also Spider-Man, which we don't count. Right, like because it's a Sony thing, so it's not like it's yes, it's MCU, but we don't count it as one of our releases. So yeah, like we got into that rhythm of like here's like every few months here's an MCU movie, and then cap off the year with a Star Wars for 5 years, I and then all of a sudden nothing. The taps are dry. I Yeah, it's been a 2020 has sucked for a lot of reasons, and this is definitely at the bottom of the list.
But it's there.
But when you add it to everything else,
Yeah.
I think, speaking personally, like I will use my I statements here. This year has been rough. There have been a lot of issues.
Mm-hmm.
The existential dread of the end of Western civilization. I as the pandemic erodes everything that's good about what we do here in North America. I and then the election on top of that, which was like a very toxic thing. Dealing with the U.S. election. Thankfully, we got the outcome that we needed to get, but I mean, like we're still kind of fighting over which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
People dying in the thousands in the U.S. and like basically around the world, right? Like if we consider ourselves as a global community, we're all part of the same thing, and it affects everybody. So, even if you're in a place that's doing better than other places, like that's still that loss of human life is just awful. I've been on a reduced salary since like I want to say like May, which I know a lot of people have lost jobs, so I'm in a much better situation than that. But like, still, it's like that sucks. That has sucked
Yeah.
for me. And then like the one thing that should be a release from that, which is a very, like, you guys, everybody listening to this podcast that's a regular listener knows how important these movies are to me. Like, it's just gone. It just hasn't happened. Thank God for Mandalorian, because I don't know what my mental state would be like in December of 2020 without having had Clone Wars back in April, like I guess February, really, through to when was that? I guess March through to May, but whatever. We had that. Clone Wars was awesome. There were a few good video game releases over the summer, but no movies. And then there have been some cool TV series and stuff that have come out, but nothing that's really like blown my socks off. But thankfully, we've had Mandalorian, and that season finale. So
I mean, it makes you realize just like, I mean, and this was being talked about at the beginning of the pandemic, like how important it is for like escapism and art and culture and TV and movies, and that we talk into the void every week about nerdy things. But it's like, it makes a huge difference, I think, to our mental well-being. And like I was saying on the like after show or whatever, that like some of my best things from this last year were just like ways to connect or consume media that I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to had it not been a pandemic this year. Like, just whether it was releases coming directly to my house or even just like panels or things that I got to see with like really cool, awesome game changers who would never really come to Vancouver, but they can do a digital panel for an hour in the morning. And it's just, there's a few shining lights in the middle of all of this craziness. So it's kind of nice to look back on some of that and then look forward to all of the awesome stuff that's coming down the pipe. For stuff. So
so not to be a bummer on our way out of 2020, but I mean, like, what are we going to be on it? I'm not gonna, I don't want to like look back and be like happy new year, happy holidays, everybody. No, like 2020 sucked. This was not a good year. This is our last episode. I mean, like, geez, this is the year that we started doing this podcast as a full-time podcast.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've done it the whole year, which we never did with Quiver. So like that is something that was new that we did this year. That is an accomplishment that we should be proud of. We're going into our 6th year of Thunderquack in January. But it's kind of hard to it's hard to look back at the year and really say anything good, because the good stuff has been so far outweighed by the bad stuff, and really like that really just comes down to like the incredibly upsetting loss of life, because so much of it was unnecessary, right? But going into 2021, you know, rich people and frontline healthcare workers are getting the the vaccine right now, so I'm happy for one half of that.
Biden got the vaccine today, I think.
So, you know, like, it's like we are starting to turn that corner, and it is sooner than I anticipated it being. So that's like, I like, you can go back. I did, or in the first half of this year, I did not think that we would have a vaccine in 2020, and that it would be sometime in the middle of next year before we would even have an approved vaccine, much less be distributing it. And it's happening. I mean, like Crystal is on a list basically because she works with children, right? Because she works in healthcare with children with autism. So like, I don't know, I don't think that she's like high up on the list, but she's definitely like in the consideration pool, which like I'm not, right? Like like, I gotta wait until it's accessible.
You don't need a vaccine to sit in front of your computer, man. Like, same with me.
But yeah, because she's in contact with people going into their homes and stuff like that. Ideally, when she's doing her job at the best of her ability, that's how it works, right? so it's like, yeah, like, so the people who need to get it first are getting it first, but there are also some people that don't need to necessarily get it first. Cause like let's be honest, a lot of these politicians, they could have figured out how to do this stuff remotely. But they're choosing not to. They're choosing to continue to do things the way that they've always done them. And then calling it, like in America, it's continuity of government or continuity of leadership or something that they're calling it, which is why all these people who've been like the COVID-19 is a hoax, they're now taking pictures getting needles jabbed into their arms with a big thumbs up, and it's like, it's so infuriating because they're the last people that should get access to it. But
they like got with the program though, so it's like you can't like,
yeah, I don't think they have a choice,
like,
right?
yeah,
It's
you
like
can't
if you
be
want to
like,
if you want to
"You didn't
continue
believe."
serving
Yeah.
in this capacity, you need to be vaccinated. So, you know, like, it's going to happen. We're going to take a picture. We're going to release that picture. You have to be on board. I think that a lot of them have kind of been strong armed into it, but which is fine. Like, it's, you know, but it's just when you see people who've put other people in active danger, like who have people have lost their lives because of the actions of some of these people who are getting the vaccine before the rest of us, and that's upsetting. It's not like let's burn it all down. It's just like, man, that's a bummer. But healthcare workers are also getting the vaccine. I've got a lot of friends who've been posting on social media, doctors and nurses and stuff like that that are getting their vaccinations. They're starting the process. So,
which is great.
You know, it's well, like, we're going to be able to go to the movie theater next year, and I was worried that wasn't going to be a thing, and we will be able to. So,
yeah,
you know, let's look forward to all this stuff. We've got WandaVision coming soon. Look, I'm in a position where I have to make a call. Are we gonna do Enough Said the way that I said that we were gonna do it? And if we are, I need to find a co-host for a show in the next couple weeks. Or I need to do what I've done this season with Mandalorian and have a different guest every week. But I'm gonna go ahead and ask you right now, Amanda. You're gonna do the first episode of that with me if I do it, right?
Of course. Okay. On episode, I can commit to one on episode.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that for? Sorry, is Enough Said the one for one or for Disney Plus stuff?
For Marvel, for all the Marvel.
For Marvel.
Stuff, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can commit to an episode.
Yeah,
for
the premiere of WandaVision.
Yeah.
Cool. So if we end up doing that, I am. It's up in the air right now if I'm going to.
But you could just. Why don't we just talk about it on Thunderquack? Why do you got to create a new podcast?
Well, because you want people to dedicated content. Because otherwise, every week while WandaVision is airing, that's all we're talking about.
That's fair.
When we're going to talk
we
about
will not do that.
Do 3-hour episodes.
I'm so excited. I know that we're not because it's spoilery, but I'm so excited for you to talk about The Mandalorian this week. And that was just some good old fashioned fun. So awesome to everybody who watched that. If everything goes according to the current plan, Matt's going to be back for that one. And I'm excited to talk about that episode for sure. And I'm so grateful to everybody that went watch the episode as soon as you can.
Yeah.
But I actually was really impressed that it didn't get spoiled for me. I didn't watch it till like 7:00, but I was able to get through the day. Yeah,
I watched it at like 12:07 or something like that. Because for the first 7 minutes, Disney Plus wouldn't let me in. Because it was just like error. This content not available. This content there's something wrong with your connection. And it's like, no, there's nothing wrong with my connection. I was literally just watching the previous episode 5 seconds ago. But it was just everybody hammering Disney Plus at the same time.
So great.
Awesome. That's it. Wow, we really went out with a bang. The uncut supporters are going to get on a 2-hour and 45-minute episode.
Epic.
So there you go. That's your Christmas present. Or I shouldn't say Christmas. I should say that's your holiday treat from Thunderquack. Because I don't know, maybe you're celebrating Kwanzaa or you did Hanukkah already, and this is late now. This is your late Hanukkah present if that's your jam. So whatever it is you're celebrating, I hope it was good. I hope you had fun. I hope everybody had a better end to the year than the majority of what we've been doing.
And the best part about it is that you get to eat cookies with no regrets because it's been a year in which you end with cookies. I've been eating strawberry cookies every single day.
But let's all make an agreement right now that we're going to do better next year. Not just that like we're going to have the content that we want, but that I don't know, like we're all going to take better care of ourselves and better care of each other maybe. And just like it'll be better if we make it better, I think is the way to look at it. So 2021 doesn't have to suck the way that 2020 did. And it's kind of up to us, man. That sucks. I really want to just coast. I want to go back to just blissful ignorance, like we had before, but that's not the way it works. So that's it for this episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we will see you guys in 2021.
Stay safe, everyone. Wash your hands and be kind to one another.
Follow the Thunderquack Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook by searching the Thunderquack Podcast. You can support us in 3 ways. First, by heading to the podcast service of your choice and leaving a rating and review. Second, by going to store.thunderquack.com to pick up some merch from your favorite podcasts. And last but not least, by heading to patreon.com/thunderquack to kick in with your monthly pledge of support and get cool rewards like early access, ad-free episodes, and extended episodes. The Thunderquack Podcast is the official podcast of thunderquack.com. Head to thunderquack.com to discover more great podcasts.